Last time on the rise of the Ottoman Empire, we saw how Bayezid the Thunderbolt expanded the borders of the Ottoman state to their furthest extent since Osman Ghazi's conquests. But a new, terrifying force from the east, Timur, now threatened his dominance. Join us as we unveil the full story of the Ankara Catastrophe and Timur's challenge to the Ottoman domination in episode 5 of our series, From Nomads to Conquerors. Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode. Let's jump right into the action. Born in 1336 near Lake Izikul in what is today Uzbekistan, Timur rose to conquer the Turco-Mongol tribes of Central Asia. He established the Timurid Empire, a powerful successor to the Mongol states of the region, which he ruled from his capital at Samarkand. Timur, also known as Emir Timur or Tamerlane, which means Iron Man, was a brilliant military leader and strategist who sought to revive the Mongol conquests of Genghis Khan and expand his own domain to rival those mighty achievements. To achieve this goal, he built a vast empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Vienna. He was not only a conqueror, but also a great administrator and patron of arts and sciences. His empire was a melting pot of different cultures and religions, and he promoted tolerance and exchange among them. But his methods were ruthless and efficient. He used advanced weaponry and tactics to defeat his enemies, and his soldiers were known for their brutality and discipline. He died in 1405 during a campaign in China and left behind a legacy of conquest and cultural synthesis. His empire collapsed after his death, but his impact on history is undeniable. He was a true master of the art of war and one of the greatest military commanders of all time. But Timur's ambitions were not limited to Central Asia. He wanted to extend his rule over the Middle East and the Mediterranean. This brought him into conflict with the Ottoman Empire, a rising power in the region that challenged his authority and prestige. The Ottomans were led by Sultan Bayezid I, also known as the Thunderbolt, a charismatic and ambitious ruler who had consolidated the Ottoman state and built a formidable army. He had defeated the Serbs at the Battle of Kosovo in 1389 and crushed the Last Crusade at the Battle of Nicopolis in 1396. But Bayezid's victory over the Crusaders had enraged Timur, who considered himself the champion of Islam and the defender of the holy places. He saw the Ottomans as infidels and heretics who needed to be punished. As the two superpowers prepared for war, the stage was set for an epic clash of civilizations. The year was 1402, and the Ottoman-Tatar alliance controlled most of the Balkans, Anatolia, and the Middle East. The Timurids held Central Asia, Persia, and Mesopotamia. Both sides had powerful armies with skilled cavalry, elite infantry, and heavy artillery. But Timur had a secret weapon: his strategy and logistics. He studied his enemies, planned his campaigns, and used deception to outmaneuver them. He also kept his troops well supplied and rested so they would be ready to fight when needed. Meanwhile, Bayezid made a fatal mistake that would cost him dearly. He underestimated Timur's threat and didn't take action soon enough. He also sent insulting letters to Timur, calling him a dog, a pig, and a weaver, which further escalated the tension and hostility. He thought that his army was invincible and that he could beat Timur easily, but he was wrong. In May 1402, Timur invaded Anatolia with a massive army of about 100,000 men, while Bayezid gathered his forces of around 70,000 men in the city of Ankara. Timur's goal was to capture Ankara and destroy the Ottoman army. He knew that if he could defeat the Ottomans, he would become the master of Anatolia and the gateway to Europe. But Bayezid was confident that his city was safe and that his army was superior. He decided to ignore Timur's threats and challenges and wait for him outside Ankara. Timur arrived there on July 20, 1402, and laid siege to the city. He used his artillery to bombard the walls and his cavalry to harass the defenders. But Bayezid held out for 3 weeks and Timur couldn't capture the city. So he did something unexpected. He lifted the siege and marched his army toward the rendezvous with Bayezid outside the city. He wanted to lure Bayezid out and crush his army in the open field. Bayezid took the bait and marched his army to meet Timur. He thought he could trap Timur between Ankara and Constantinople, but he was again wrong. Timur had chosen the battlefield wisely. It was near the town of Ankara, on a plain surrounded by hills and rivers. He had also used the time between the siege and the battle to rest and resupply his troops, while Bayezid's troops had to march long distances and carry supplies from Ankara. By the time the two armies met, Timur's troops were fresh and eager to fight, while Bayezid's troops were exhausted and hungry. The battle was on. The Ottoman army consisted of various units from different regions and backgrounds. They had the Yeniçeri or new men, the core of the Ottoman army, consisting of elite infantrymen armed with long guns, swords and shields. They also had the Sipahi, the mounted horsemen who provided shock troops with lances and bows. They also had the Timurids, the cavalrymen who received land grants in return for their service. And they had the irregular troops from the Balkans and Anatolia who fought with axes, maces and clubs. The Ottoman Janissaries were the most feared and effective unit of the army. They were elite infantry soldiers who were taken from Christian prisoners and converted to Islam. They were highly trained and disciplined, and they formed the backbone of the Ottoman military. The Tatar army, on the other hand, was a mix of light and heavy cavalrymen who were skilled archers and horsemen. They were divided into hordes or clans that were loyal to the Khan or the Sultan. They were fierce and independent fighters who often raided and pillaged on both sides of the Ottoman-Tatar border. The Anatolian Turkic troops were mostly cavalrymen who were loyal to the local emirs or beys. They were Sunni Muslims who resented Ottoman centralization and Bayezid's rule. They were opportunistic and rebellious fighters who switched sides depending on their interests. The Serbian contingent was led by Bayezid himself. They were infantry soldiers who fought with pikes, swords, and shields. They were remnants of the Serbian army that Bayezid captured at the Battle of Kosovo in 1389. They were brave and experienced fighters who formed Bayezid's personal guard. When the two armies clashed at Ankara, the Tatars and Anatolian Turks deserted the Ottoman ranks and joined the Timurid army, weakening Bayezid's flanks and allowing Timur's forces to attack with overwhelming numbers. The Janissaries and Serbian soldiers fought bravely against Timur's hordes, but they couldn't hold off the Timurid cavalry. The battle turned into a rout and the Ottomans fled the field. The Timurids pursued them and cut down thousands of them. Bayezid himself barely escaped with his life. He abandoned his throne, his family, and his army and fled to Constantinople. But Timur's forces chased him down and captured him near the town of Elbi. He was taken to Samarkand as a prisoner and died there in 1403 or 1406. He was the only Ottoman sultan who was captured alive by an enemy, and he suffered a humiliating defeat. The Battle of Ankara was a catastrophe for the Ottoman Empire. Its army was shattered, its sultan captured, and its territories plunged into chaos and civil war. A period known as the interregnum or anarchy followed. The Ottoman state collapsed and the dynasty split into several factions that fought for power. The empire was fragmented and weakened, and its rivals and tributaries revolted and seized their independence. The effects of the battle and the interregnum lasted for decades until the Ottomans were covered under the rule of Mehmed I. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We always love bringing you stories of epic battles and legendary warriors. We have more exciting episodes coming up, so stay tuned. Don't forget to show your support. See you in the next one.